A day can seem to have no beginning and no ending. It becomes a 25-hour day that blends into the one that came before and the one that is to follow. It is not necessary to be a military man to understand how long a day can be. A shot fired at Bien Ho, Da Nang, Quang Tri, Haiphong, or near Hanoi can strike home in any city, town, or hamlet of 50 sovereign states. 8,000 miles away can still be very close to home. And because it could come closer still, we share the conflict and the strength. We also share the understanding and the courage to prove that the honor of a nation's word has greater meaning than formal letters written on a scrap of paper. A man with a weapon is, if he is a reasonable man, a man with a purpose. The range of his understanding of his purpose reaches far beyond his line of sight. He knows the big picture. He understands that attempts to intimidate by force must be resisted by force before intimidation becomes a way of international life. And this he also knows. He and the thousands like him, fighting and sweating on the ground, are the spearheads of our Department of Defense total effort, an effort concentrated to help the men on the ground to achieve their purpose and their mission. Above field and jungle, close air support. Help clear the way for the man on the ground. Reinforcing. Return to care and safety those who have taken as well as given. Support those men during the long hours of daylight and the longer hours of darkness. Support them with B-52s against concentrations of troops and supplies. Give the enemy no chance to rest. Support them with tactical fighter bombers to keep up the pressure and help destroy our enemy's ability and desire to attack. Support them with hundreds of thousands of tons by airlift. The supplies come through, but there are other lines of supplies that flow the other way along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It winds down from the north through mountain passes and under the cover of green-top jungles. For North Vietnam, it is the lifeline for their aggression. Along the flank of southern Asia, the coastline of North and South Vietnam takes the form of an elongated S. A demilitarized zone between the two countries along the 17th parallel at the sea was established by solemn treaty. To the north is China. To the west are Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Burma, India, and Pakistan. Moving down from the north, men, oil, machines, the tools of war, are fed along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to bolster the aggression in the south. They move by night over the narrow roads, through mountain passes, and along trails hidden by the jungle foliage. Trucks and pack-laden coolies by the tens of thousands. Usually, by day, they remain hidden in the jungle, to venture out again at nightfall, to carry their lethal burdens along their narrow lifeline of aggression. That lifeline must be severed. When it is repaired, as it always is, it must be severed again.
History Hit is an award-winning streaming platform built by history fans for history fans. By subscribing to History Hit, you can access hundreds of hours of military history documentaries on demand. Follow in the footsteps of the Essex Dogs with Dan Jones, or discover the history of archery with Ray Mears. We've built up an extensive library of history programs, hundreds of hours of documentaries, exclusive original films, interviews, and ad-free podcasts made for proper history fans. Sign up now for a free trial, and War Stories fans get 50% off their first 3 months. Just be sure to use the code WARSTORIES at checkout.
The infiltration increases in both men and equipment has required a very sharp increase in petroleum imports. Since the first of this year, the average monthly imports of petroleum into North Vietnam have increased 50 to 70% above the comparable period in 1965. Stocks on hand prior to the attack were estimated to represent about 2 to 4 months' supply. The increased importance of petroleum to the enemy's military effort is further attested by his action to improve the routes of infiltration. Some of these routes are new, some have been widened, some have been upgraded for all-weather use. Bypasses have been built, and bamboo canopies or trellises have been built over the jungle roads in many places in order to inhibit observation of them from the air. A result of the greatly increased movement of men and supplies by truck and by motor-powered junks has been a shift from a small-arms guerrilla-type operation against South Vietnam to a quasi-conventional military operation which involves major supplies, major weapons, and heavier equipment.
Every gallon of fuel, every gun, bullet, even every ration of rice destroyed north of the 17th parallel may mean the life of a man on the ground south of the 17th. The military call it interdiction. That is the mission of those who fly to the north. Support the men on the ground by strangling the supply routes. They fly from the decks of our Navy's carriers. They fly from the surface of the land, the supersonic weapons of our Air Force's tactical fighters. They turn their noses north, north toward Mugia Pass, toward the fuel storage areas near Hanoi, north to interdict the trains carrying in supplies. The pilots do the flying. The ground crews keep them flying. It's an around-the-clock operation. Fly the mission, maintain the aircraft, repair the battle damage so that the next mission can be flown. No one counts the hours in a day. They keep close track of the months and weeks that they have left to sweat out to complete their 12-month tour of duty. But they don't count the hours in a day. All activity is monitored in aircraft vehicle control. Each operation is on a fixed time schedule. Often planes have to fly on paper before they can fly on missions. Nobody's job is easy, but then nobody ever said it would be. Every so often fellows will ask, why me? Why should I be here? One way or another, they have to find the answer for themselves. Usually they do find the answer. Then they have another question. What more can we do? The answer to that one is simple. Work your guts out for the men who fly the planes. A pilot's tour of duty is 100 missions.
100 missions to be flown, 100 targets still unknown. But it's my belief that my Thunder Chief strikes a telling blow to help G.I. Joe. Till 100 missions I myself have flown.
For the pilots, a day can start at 2:30 a.m. or earlier, or any time. Somebody's son, somebody's father, maybe everybody's hope. Never before has air war demanded such degrees of judgment and responsible self-discipline.
In mission briefing and tactical operations, information pinpoints refueling tanker locations and gives us our ordnance configurations. We'll get call signs and radio frequencies to use for the F-4Cs, and our own F-105s will be flying cover against possible MiG attack. Wing intelligence will have photos of our target area and what to expect in way of defenses. The anti-aircraft and small arms fire are heavy. Worse for us than the surface-to-air missiles, the SAMs, and they're bad enough. But destroying our targets will help cut the flow of supplies toward the south. Furthermore, the daily tonnage of supplies moved overland from North Vietnam into South Vietnam has increased about 150% in the past year, and the infiltration of armed personnel has increased about 120% during the same period. Before we suit up for a strike, each flight leader briefs his own flight. There are 4 in a flight, plus 1 extra, a spare, in case one of the 4 can't take off due to an aircraft mechanical problem. Our flight leader details our entry into the target area, and then our tactics for getting the heck out of there. We listen because we respect him, because he'll be leading the way in.
5 men in a small briefing room. Many groups of 5 in many small rooms. For maybe the minute and a half they'll be over the target area. They'll spend hours of flight planning and briefing. Pilots have always been fighting men. But to courage and daring, today you have to add the great technical skill and self-discipline demanded by their sophisticated weapons. But weapons no more effective than the men who fly them or those who keep them flying. Case in point, combat aircraft are maintained with a dedication that results in flying hours at a rate 3 times normal usage. The line crews understand how much depends on them, day after 25-hour day. Normally, the spare is a very decent fellow. But now he's been through the hours of pre-flight details. He can't help but hope that one of the other aircraft will show up with a minor hydraulic leak or a cut tire. Sometimes that happens, but not today. Supersonic blasts of power in the open ocean of the air, ready to play their part in the overall coordinated effort. There are other flights in the sky. The F-4Cs are en route. At the same moment in time, the big choppers, affectionately known as the Jolly Greens, are on their way with A-1Es for their protective escort. Their object is to stay as close as possible to the target area, so that if a pilot in one of the attack planes has to hit the parachute, then they can move in to pick him up. If there's enemy ground fire, those A1Es dive in to keep the enemy's heads down. The boys in the KC-135 tankers have been waiting to refuel the tactical fighter bombers en route to their targets. Those KC-135s will keep orbiting in case any of the boys run short of fuel on the way home. The overall coordination is the result of the total planning by the Department of Defense team effort, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. Most people will ask pilots the same question over and over. Aren't you scared? The answer is always pretty much the same. Sure, we're scared, until we button down the hatch.
We're a one-man sort of operation. We're our own navigator, radio man, radar operator, and bombardier. Getting into the target, we have to take evasive action. Then it's pop up, dive in, drop the bombs, and get the heck out of there. You watch your fuel. You go over in your mind what the intelligence boys will want to know about the results. At the target, the ground defenses, all the details. You might be scared when you start, but after that, you just don't have the time.
Results? Positive. The cockpit is a pilot's office. Management of that office must be as precise and efficient as the complex instruments with which it is equipped. One flight of many flights, and there isn't a combat pilot who doesn't know it. Every bullet, every gallon of oil, every mortar stopped north of that 17th parallel can mean the life of 1 man, 10 men, 100 men south of that parallel. Rescue Control has picked up a radio call for help from a pilot whose aircraft was hit and who had to eject. He has contacted the Jolly Greens and given them a fix on the downed pilot's approximate position. I didn't realize my plane had been hit until the cockpit started filling up with smoke. I punched out. When that parachute blossomed, I took a long, deep breath. Then I landed in the trees, and I don't really remember how I managed to climb down to the ground. I let out a shout for help on my radio, then scrambled up the hill to get as close to the top as I could. I shot off some pin flares when I saw the A1Es and the Jolly Green. It's hard to put into words exactly how I felt when I knew the Jolly Green was going to get me out. Let's just say I prayed a little, on my own account, and for those guys of search and air rescue.
100 missions to be flown. It's good to know you're not alone. If a shrapnel stump means I have to jump, then the Jolly Green will pick me up clean. Till 100 missions I myself have flown.
one flight's mission has been completed, but the long day's work is far from over. First will come the detailed intelligence debriefing at Tactical Operations Center. After the official debriefing, flight leaders hold a session for critiquing their flight's performance as a unit and as individuals. Was there a delay in acquiring the target? Did one of the men press too low? Did they regroup promptly after hitting the target? Was element integrity maintained? You can never stop learning. You might get away with an error in judgment one day. Tomorrow you may not be as lucky. One flight of many flights. But operations continue around the clock. For the ground crews, it's 12 hours or more a day, 6 days or more a week. It could be drudgery if every man on the ground didn't know and understand that they are the ones who make it possible for those who fly to complete their missions. It's about 13:30 hours now, 1:30 in the afternoon of a day like every other day. Another flight takes off on another mission. Who went out earlier have a couple of hours off duty.
100 missions to be flown, 100 bridges to be blown. On my left and right, the rest of my flight help keep me alive in my 105. Till 100 missions I myself have flown.
No matter what they do or how relaxed they seem, pilots always wonder what tomorrow's target will be. A milk run or a tough one? The answer comes at about 1800 hours, when flight planning for the next morning's strike starts. Usually, flight planning takes 2 or 3 hours. On a new, tough target, that time can easily be doubled. A fragmentary order, FRAG for short, comes to the Wing Tactical Operations Center and is the small part of the overall order that relates to the fighter wings. The orders come down from DOD and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Then, at wing level, they are broken down and missions assigned to the squadrons. There are many FRAGs that make up a day's total coordinated effort.
We believe this essential to help safeguard the freedom of South Vietnam and to save the lives of those South Vietnamese, Americans, Australians, New Zealanders, and Koreans who are fighting to ensure that freedom.
The aircraft our pilots fly are compact, highly maneuverable machines. They have the inherent speed and versatility to be effective in air-to-air or air-to-ground combat. But they are only machines. They must be maintained. The record of keeping flying hours at a rate 3 times normal use speaks loudly and clearly for the kind of men who work with their hearts as well as with their minds and hands. Men are brave in many ways. And there are many ways in which a man can show his courage. Courage can't be judged by a casual glance or the sound of a voice. Any fighting man will tell you, you must know fear in order to find your true strength. Want a portrait of a hero? Take a snapshot of a pilot. Or another. Or another. Move your camera out to the line for long shots, or for close-ups. Carry it inside aircraft vehicle control to watch the men who often don't even see the planes they help keep flying. Let your camera travel into the air to fly with the men of the Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Service. You'll never find a man who thinks himself a hero or even considers himself as particularly brave. But they all share a common bond and a common pride. They are all working members of the same fighting team, fighting each in his own way, trying to slow down and if possible to break down the flow of supplies to the south and to adversely affect the will of North Vietnam toward carrying on their aggressive operations. The total task is large, and yet, as it always is, each small fragment of that total is very personal. Men may live 3,000 miles or more apart back home in the States, but here there are no state lines, no county lines, no country boys or city boys. No one asks their social position or who their ancestors might or might not have been. Nor do we as a nation know what we as a nation have done to have deserved men such as these. Perhaps they reflect the courage and the strength instilled in them by their mothers and their fathers. Perhaps it is the heritage of men who came before, men who stood at Concord Bridge, men who walked through Chateau Thierry, through the Ardennes forest, and the undergrowth of Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima. Men who ranged the skies over Pacific atolls and over Africa and Europe half a world away. We do not know what we have done to produce men such as these, but we do know these are our men, our fathers, our sons, our brothers. It is only right that not only should we be proud of them, we can be proud of them.
Lieutenants coming in behind this F, and they just finished their 100th mission. Actually, they got cycled through to go back up to rescue one of our other pilots that was shot down earlier. So they've just got 101 missions, and we're real proud of them because first of all, not many lieutenants fly the 105, and secondly, to get 100 missions in it is outstanding, we think. So we're going to meet them here at the end of the runway and take them on up to the parking space, give them a bottle of champagne, and I imagine they're three happy boys.
When all is said and done, you really cannot adequately relate a war. War is too potent, too personal. War is living and laughing and crying and dying. It has always been the man who fights who can best report a war, if he will. True, his story may be confused, sometimes harsh, sometimes boisterously non-committal, but it is real. This is one segment, one small insight into our present war. This is the 105 story. The story of fighter-bomber pilots flying daily over the armed camp of North Vietnam during the month of November 1966. These are the men of the 388 Tactical Fighter Wing, and in particular, the men of the 421st, the Fighting Cavalier Squadron.
Hey, man! Danny says, well, what are they doing? He says, well, how do I tell if they're friendly? He says, well, if they come up with their hands over their heads, they'll be friendly. He says, no, one of these guys has got a gun.
The guy said, well, how far are you from them? He said, well, they're standing right here by me. And he said, well, it must be friendly.
How's it feel to have 100?
I thought I was going to kill myself on initial, you want to know the truth. Jeez.
FOD.
They didn't know where he was for a while. And then they saw a lone bee up there, and they said, all right, that's two, and he just lost the radio. I'm going to be an instructor pilot. Where? T-38, Williams Air Force Base, Arizona. I figure I'll arrive there, and I'll be real quiet, calm, and all that, and I'll go in, and all the students will nudge each other, and when they meet me, and I'll be their instructor, and they'll fly with me, and they'll nudge each other and say, what did Lieutenant Rasmus do before he came here? And it'll be all quiet, no one will know until finally there'll be graduation, and we'll show up in mess dress, and there I'll be with my air medals and my DFCs and my Silver Star and my Commendation Medal and my Vietnam Service Medal and all this stuff all the way across, and I'll walk in with a slight limp, and they'll say, tell me about it. And I'll say, it was nothing. It was nothing. But then for a week after, every time I crawl in the airplane, as I get in, I'll pull my leg in and I'll wince a little, and I'll say, what is it? And I'll say, oh, it's just an old war injury. 45, 44. Right, 45, 44, 14.
How'd the mission go? Pretty good?
Yeah, good. Get another one.
How many is that?
Well, it's 42, 43 now.
Okay.
Major heights. One mission, one counter, one for the month.
Finally made the board. 99 hard ones to go.
Before you do this afternoon, I got to put them on my hand for number 90.
Already got it.
So you're going to get two today, huh?
One more, I'll be able to make it bigger.
One more, you'll be able to hold the rest.
He's been here about 6 months. It averages about 6 months to get a tour. We're able to get 200 in about that much time.
He took his R&R to go down and get the Christmas shopping done before he goes back.
No, you really can't blame him.
No, sir, you can't blame any of them.
We have 4 people. Looks like we should finish up by the end of this month. They should be home with their families for Christmas.
Well, think you're going to make it home for Christmas?
Yeah.
Well,
67.
Number 90.
This wing, even though we're roughly 100 miles from any sort of civilization, morale is high here. I've noticed that. The men know what they're doing and why they're here.
Well, if we still have to be over here, I'll come right back. And boy, you never me.
You come right back and do another hitch.
You bet I will. Well, I feel we have a reason to be here. As you read Consequential in Asia, I feel that we didn't just take some measures to stop it here. We've been fighting in our backyard.
Enjoy some of the things I'm over here for, such as the American way of life.
I served in World War II in the Southwest Pacific. I served during Korea.
Well, when I leave here, I still have some time to do it, sir.
Gonna make it a career?
Probably. We don't have a morale problem. Here we sit out here in the middle of a strange country and away from everything that's familiar to us. And I'm not speaking of pilots now, I'm talking to the maintenance people. But there is no morale problem. Of course, the pilots couldn't have a morale problem. There's always something going. There's always something going. There's never a dull moment. If there is a factor involved with a morale problem, it's fatigue. Yes, I personally try to discourage it. Man has put in 100 missions over North Vietnam to go home, get a rest, and then come back. However, I have one pilot here that just insisted on taking another 100, and He's here. His name is Lieutenant Victor.
Yeah, I want to come back down. How come you get to stay here?
Hey, worked harder. You could have stayed here with me.
Yeah, Mommy wouldn't have had any part to do with that.
Yeah, okay, there's the deal, you know. You're married, and let's face it, you know, if you like somebody well enough to be married with them, God, you don't want to be away from them for a year or 8 months or anything like that. How are you going to explain to a wife that you put in for a concurrent tour, you know, that you're going to take flying over her? It wouldn't happen. Like me,
to do with you.
Nah, that's why I'm sticking around, you know. That's where I got nothing going for me back in the States, and the flying's good. You don't have all the little nitpicking rules and regulations that you have to put up with in the States.
Which we did 2 months ago.
Yeah. It's still a lot better than it is back there now. But I just, you know, I enjoy it. And it's the kind of deal like everybody says, yeah, I'm waving a flag, but I'm not. But at the same time, you know, where are you gonna stop it at, you know? Where's communism? Are you gonna wait till they're in the Philippines, or in Australia, or San Francisco, or Des Moines, Iowa? You know, you just stop it here, or wait till somewhere later on. I don't think most of the people think about that. They like me, you know. What happens, you know, if I get shot down? Too mean. They'll never get me anyway.
Hey, at least you were pretty mean till you shaved your mustache.
Yeah. I couldn't stand that anymore.
Our bombing objectives, I believe, can be very distinctly divided into two phases. Our interdiction program, conducted in the southern portion of North Vietnam in an attempt to deny movement of the enemy into South Vietnam, and our strategic, if you will, objectives in the northern portion of North Vietnam in terms of attacking principal lines of communications, the northeast and the northwest railroads, which comprise the two most major railroads in North Vietnam, also POL installations and other military supply and storage areas located in the delta regions of North Vietnam.
Spared this flight here that's getting ready to big angle to take off. We've got over 50 airplanes involved in this strike force, and it was going to be a big raid up near the Hanoi area, but the weather's bad. Now they're going to various other areas. A spares job. For every 4 airplanes we launch one spare off the end of the runway. In case one of the airplanes that we're having trouble with, they can fill in any 4 positions, any one of the 4 positions. He's usually a leader, so in case the leader aborts, he can fill in that spot. You can see this flight taking off now, and the airplane standing by is the spare. He'll be coming back up like me probably pretty soon. Spare is not a bad job because you do launch quite a bit of the time. Why we have a spare out there, because if we didn't, we'd never get another airplane up in time.
Valley.
hours and 55 minutes.
That way I
55?
Yeah.
We probably was about 250 or so. God, my fanny's tired.
My fanny's square.
I can see it's like on the surgeon. When I rolled in, I thought I saw something funny down there.
I didn't see it.
You didn't bother to tell you we didn't. You didn't? I didn't? No. There's a nice big bridge there. 2%. I was carrying about 2% back. Yeah, when that guy kept calling Mix, and we hadn't caught up with that flight in front of us yet then, and I'm still going full blow rate about 620 degrees.
Yeah.
This is not the answer.
Don't worry, I was watching you at 6 o'clock.
Thanks a lot.
I call you if anybody came.
I was watching it too.
Well, that's when I was on my run, that's where I saw all the sparking coming from. All the bright flashes were coming from right around where you dropped your bombs. So we came right in through this area right in here. We're at Route 6. That's the real way.
Well, where were we when where was that flight that was calling out all the MiGs?
That wasn't the flight that was calling me. That was some guy.
That's the 121 that sits out over the field. There was somebody up there saying, drop, along that road to this, that, or the other. Some guy was saying, there's a single over there, and there goes this, and that, and the other.
Yeah, but they were all identified as fragments.
I saw one.
Yeah. There was a gaggle of airplanes up in there, I'll tell you. Cripes, they were
It
all
sounded
over.
to me like before we got there that some guys actually saw them, and they were calling them out.
We have 4 squadrons in it. They are all located up here in the, I'll call the quadrangle. The 469th here on your right, Fighting Bulls. To the left here, the 421st, the 34th, and the 13th.
Spot 26. Aircraft 148 marks the beginning of the 421st Tactical Fighter Squadron area, of which I spend most of my time. They have 20 aircraft assigned to the outfit. As you can see, they're all painted up in different ways. The primary identification feature is the red GCA deflector on the nose gear strut. As a matter of the 105, and my particular acquaintance with the doggone thing, first associations, I guess, from a number of years back, I could care less about the airplane. I didn't think it was ever made to fly, and it certainly, from a maintenance standpoint, wasn't very reliable. Southeast Asia has changed my mind.
On the left here is age. That's ground support equipment. We have about 300 pieces of it here, and it's worth $6 million. The 105 is a very complicated weapon system. It's got radar, gun sights, electronics, all sorts of complicated electronic equipment in it. And this equipment here supports the operation of the 105. This is taken back at the complication of this weapon system. You like to know that it takes 40 man-hours of maintenance people to support 1 hour of this airplane in the air. That's how complicated it is. However, it's the best airplane in the Air Force over here today to do the job.
This flight line at night is a pretty active place. There's more work done at night, actually, than there is in the daytime, because the daytime is completely taken off with launching and recovering airplanes. We don't have much time for anything else. Plus, there's a turnaround. There's a lot of bomb loading for the second go around noon, but nothing like at night. You put it on one airplane, it doesn't come to me, so you have to take it off and put it on another one. It's pretty frustrating. They get it done somehow. I don't know how, but they do. We have a remarkable
delivery rate here. I can't remember last time I got a maintenance non-delivery. We're always getting up. They do a real bang-up job, matter of fact.
What is that? Is that a new grunt we have in quarters? Right. They said sport shirts, not sporty shirts.
Over there, probably.
In your bar? Your what? Oh, thank you.
Well, I'll be darned. No wonder I didn't get no mail. Probably go around here checking my answer.
Who's that answer?
My sister.
Oh. You never write to me unless I go to combat.
I would do that.
Made Sylvia, I no care. My love waits there in San Francisco, beyond the blue and windy sea. When I come home to you, San Francisco, your golden sun will shine.
One thing that happens at the tanker that everybody remembers most, that's where the adrenaline starts to pump. The airplane's working all right, you got to the tanker, and it accepted the gas. That means you're going. That's your last chance. The first flight goes through the tanker, and you stay with the tanker. There'll be 4 flights on the tanker. And everybody will go through the tanker and then fill up. It takes 6 to 8 hours of time. And you stay there. And you stay in a safer area. After everybody gets full, you extend. And you head up to your drop-off point. And en route from the anchor to the drop-off point, you go through a top-out. And it takes 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 pounds. The point is that you can get 4 airplanes through a top-off just in nothing. It takes a couple of minutes per airplane. Whereas for the original big refueling, why it takes quite some time. So consequently, if you put 4 flights on the tanker and extend immediately, you get to the drop-off point where the tanker has to turn back before you get to strike flight 4. Plus the other added advantage is that everybody leaves full, or close to full. A lot of our mission is to observe what's going on the ground, what they're moving, where they're moving it to, and how the bridge is, what kind of condition they're in, this sort of thing. So we do need a lot of area that cloud cover isn't over the target area. And up north, where the SAM environment is heavy, you can't operate in say around cumulus buildups where you're going around the clouds because the SAM will come right straight through them and hit you. And incidentally, the airplanes we have lost to SAMs have been in these conditions. So we have to avoid them.
Well, maybe 150. 150. I still had line speed, though. That's surprising. I got water right away at all times, so... Yeah, I had line speed plus 1. Do you remember what the weather was when we went into the tops of it? Let's see, we were at 14. About 10,000. Yeah, we went through a layer at 10,000, and then it was about from 10 to 9, and then from 9 to the ground in areas it was clear, but there was a scattered layer in there about 5 or 6.
We've got, we had 3 on that extra one yesterday. This is how many? This is 24? Sorry, we lost 2 today. Okay, this 1, 2, 24, and 1 is 25. Okay. Now this is a CBU flight. This is, what's the second flight? Loaded with tomorrow.
Spot still tagging.
And then drive up there slow so you hit the red. I mean, so you're going to hit the TLC now. You hit the red and the Y, everything, so we're going to hit right on down here at TOT. Everything worked out perfect except the weather.
The weather tomorrow indicates a small high pressure area centered just about over Hanoi, which should make for fairly good weather except for restricted visibilities and haze.
The crutch of this one is going to be the weather on Fed Ridge tomorrow, the last 5 minutes into the target.
Just that weather just to the northwest and west is going to be the real critical area.
So we'll do it the same way.
Yeah, if everything works the same way tomorrow, we'll get it. If the weather breaks, you know. Then we'll wait till it does. Sir, tomorrow's target is the Yen Ben Railroad. It's the largest railroad in all of North Vietnam. Its function is to control all the traffic coming in from the Northeast Railroad and the Northwest Railroad into Hanoi. It then controls all traffic going south. It's located 5 nautical miles north of Hanoi. Its defenses include a heavy concentration of AAA, and there are 26 known SAM sites in the area.
Roscoe was brought here by a pilot from Kadena, who was temporarily assigned to the wing. When the pilot was shot down up north, Roscoe sort of became everybody's dog, the only dog allowed on base. Now Roscoe's a free agent and goes everywhere, sort of a tramp with a big heart. But lots of guys, for instance, don't feel right unless he's sitting there in a commander's chair during the mission briefing. They say if he sleeps, it's going to be an easy mission. If his ears perk up, watch out.
The winds there from the surface to 5,000 feet along the coast are going to run about 25 knots out of the northeast. Did have an aircraft report right over the mountain there, he said this morning, just about at Magia Pass at 5,000 feet, he had a wind of 030 at 40 knots.
Nobody dares say anything against 105. And then you hear stories and wild tales and so forth. And boy, I've learned to love this old bird. It really does a job. There's not another airplane that we've got that can do what this one will. They just use as much as they can be used, and very successfully. Very successfully. The pilots love the airplane. They love the speed and the power, and they will get there and get you out.
We hear an awful lot about surface-to-air missiles. They're called SAMs, or referred to as SA-2s. This is a picture of an SA-2 site situated in the immediate Hanoi area. A close-up of this particular target would look something like this. Very clearly, you can observe the presence of SA-2 missiles. And in this area, we find the radar van which controls the firing of the missiles and also tracks the aircraft along with providing guidance to the SA-2 missile. Our pilots are constantly faced in flying into North Vietnam with missile firings, along with extremely heavy anti-aircraft.
I kind of call it the dry throat mission myself. Usually I come outbound from the target and I'm just kind of sucking that water bottle dry throat.
But the only thing I can really say about the Hanoi area is about the time you start coming off the tanker on the way up there, you begin getting butterflies in your stomach naturally, and then you begin settling down to the task at hand of navigating and finding your way up there, and then once you arrive in the area, you're generally pretty busy, and although at times you're pretty scared when you have to roll in on something up there, especially when you look down and see nothing but a black cloud or a white cloud down below you. It's about as scary a mission as I've ever been on. I think it tries you to just about the maximum on the missions.
If you can get between a ridge between you and that radar site, they can't guide a missile at you. It's just when you get down in the Delta in the flatlands, that 30-mile ring around the city of Hanoi is a bear. Because it's flat, you have no protection, and I don't know how true it is, but they say it's the most heavily defended place in the history of aerial warfare. I've been there and I believe it.
Everybody wear your black belts today, guys.
Doesn't have one. Draw flag? Well, that wards it off. Everybody wear your flak magnets. How come no matter how much in a rush, I'm always the last guy? You don't want to go. Ain't no way. There ain't no way. You got those flags you're going to tie between the wings, or one on each side? Yes, sir. Put most of the morning
Now, first of all, we have in our desk is the radio, which is the most important item we have. Our second item, I would say, is flares. The third is your weapon. You have the compass and the mirror for signaling and find direction. The most important one, upon bailout, is the beeper.
I hear yours, too.
Yeah. Who did that?
How many bombs we got? Oh, yeah. We must have 20 bombs, or 30 bombs, haven't we?
Who belongs to this one?
148. That's fine.
148. Don't kick my first out.
Okay, I won't take your first. We're going way up. Way up north.
Roger, I'm gonna hold 240 here till we get to red. I'm just crossing the river now, field. Red river? Right. Eagle 4, check. Eagle flag, a lot of flag guys off that middle side. Speed's off right. Automatic weapon, training here, Steel, no contact. 3 on me. This is leading about 35 miles from our turn point. Roger, so am I. Okay, Steel lead's going to start a left turn and come over here just a little bit. We're getting a little action right below me. Yeah, 3, we're getting close to the turn point. Roger, I'm turning right now. Steel. Yeah. Going at 5. And we got a bogey low at 2. Who was that for, Eagle? Clam. Well, there's a right something. I got 6 going back this way and every run south. Okay, D-Point, there's a mate going turning south there. Roger, I'm going in back off right. I see him loud and clear. Detroit, they got mates right under us, right under us. Roger, let's go get him. Roger, I'm right over the target right now. I got a 17 right in front of him. Mixing it up with 3 or 4 mates. Okay, I'll be back. Let's go back, Detroit. Roger, the 2 stringers look like 105s out at 9 o'clock high, no sweat. Okay, this is Banjo's got a contact down in the target area. Pull up about 10 degrees and try to punt. Let me see, get me lined up. Okay, keep punting left. Okay. A little out now, he's strong. He's pumped, he's going to get strong in a minute. Okay, I got that there. As he's getting 11, let's try to drop the line. Take it down, right. This is Banjo, we just got a launch. Take it down, True. Which way now, then? 11 o'clock. So get the launch, 11 o'clock. We can take it down. Roger, Banjo, take it down. We got a launch. I see them coming off the pad at 12 o'clock. I think we're all right for the time being. Yeah, looks good. Okay, just like, let's get out of here to the southwest. Here's your direction and altitude. Roger, I'm going 240, right on the deck. Oh, tonight and so far they'll be singing in the station that always gets sung, and we'll tell the tales of the nation, and we'll bring to all number 1.
Magoo.
There are three of them. They're shooting at us, too. Well, sit right up on that hill, right from the left side of the... Well, if you pass through the top of that hill, you'd have nailed them.
You know, when you said let them go, I just pushed, and then I looked out and I said, oh, gee, that was too high. It was about 6,500 feet, and I had 55 or something set on the tapes. I was going to be shorter than hell.
Well, I didn't mean go ahead and push. I meant, you know, you just take that hill on your left right there and hit that one. All right. So, oh, there's another one out of the way. Got another one, that's it. Indeed. 51. 51. Kind of look at that. You know, part of the problem is everybody sits around and they go up and they hit this little steel oil dump and that steel oil dump. Everybody wants to hit a good target. Oh, that's the only thing you're here. That's right. But, so a guy walks in, he says, well, I just got here, put me on this, you know. And the guy says, look, I've been up there 6 times and haven't hit this because there's nothing to hit. Now I got a chance to hit. How about letting me go? And who's going to win the argument? Yeah. Well, you got to give him a shot at it. Well, that's right. We've been very successful here in taking pilots from SAC, ADC, Training Command, as long as they go through one of the tactical schools, and one of the 105 schools in Attack Air Command, back in the States and receive roughly 70 hours in the 105. They do a good job here. Of course, we don't start them out as flight leaders. They start either in the number 2 or 4 position, and they set their own rate of progress.
Well, how do you feel?
It's quite a fight.
Yeah, well, after not flying for a couple months, you all feel good. Ed, we talk about it a little bit?
Sure.
Did you understand what we were trying to do when he was doing the recce? How he was going back and forth on the road and
I was
standing inside?
That wasn't really what I was doing.
He was too close.
You said, oh, you mean when I was, when you were wrecking the road? Yeah, I was flying. I was trying to fly a wing. Sort of like this one.
Yeah, well, he
was leading. No, you just press on. I'll stay away from you.
Yeah, there's no problem. But you see the position that you want. You don't want to get down like this because you're getting the flak. You stay up like this, and then when he disappears, you'll slide it, go high on him. Then when he reverses, take a look out. See, every time you look out, you look right down there and see your wingman. That's what you want to do.
When you go to the outside, you don't want to get too high because if he turns into you, that's what happened to me that one.
Yeah.
He turned into me and I was high and I got no place to go.
Don't get too high and don't get too low. When you get too low, if they shoot at him and you're lower, they'll probably hit you. But at the same time, if you get too high, if he turns into you, just like Ed says, you get it blocked out.
I've told you how complicated the weapon system is, so that it only can be effectively operated and utilized against the enemy by 2 professionals. And our pilots are professional pilots. We do have a few youngsters out of the training school, but most of our pilots have been in the Air Force 10 to 12 years or longer. And in fact, we have some grandfathers here that are fighting this war.
The rendezvous at 13:15.
We're about here, 13:10, right. Well, we'll have enough fuel after leaving that tank to make 3 full runaways. Let's look at the flag. My best day was the 5th of July when I attacked and destroyed 4 SAM sites in one 25-minute mission. And this came about because in escorting the strike flights, 2 SAM sites came up on our way in. We had to attack these boys to turn them off the air to get into the target area. While in the target area, another SAM site came up, threatening the strike force, and of course we attacked and got him. And then on the way back out, another SAM site came up to block our exit out of the target area, which was about 15 or 20 miles north of Hanoi. And we only had 1 part of rockets and 20-millimeter cannon ammunition remaining, but he fired 2 SAMs at us, and we managed to acquire him visually and put the rockets on him and machine gun him out of commission. This was the best day I've had, and I don't care to go through another one of those. A little too much for an old man.
There ain't no way.
I've come up with one thing that, in my own mind, makes the Air Force a good organization, and was one of the reasons I stayed in it after I got into fighters, and that's the people that are in it. And I think this has been most vividly demonstrated to me over here. I don't think you can get more diversified type of an organization, people of diversified backgrounds. We have some old heads from Korea, some young heads from the academy, and we got the world's greatest B-52 fighter pilot over there, Bob Loken, and a few other people from SAC, ADC, and 12th Air Force headquarters, and things like that. And we made a pretty good organization. I think we kind of put the squadron, if we could tell it to the world, we put it on the map. And I'm very happy to have served with each and every one of you troops.
So if I can swing a deal to get down south with working 100s or F5s or A1s or, geez, I don't care, as long as it's close air support. If I can swing that, I'm going to just try to go, or maybe back to States TV-wide upgrade and down there. If not, I'll stick around and fly an 01 or an A1. Check you out right up north, you know.
You ever had thoughts that you might not make that?
Oh, no. Yeah, but I've been drawing pay for 16 years. This is my job. As of right now, I've got 3 children. I've got a 6-year-old boy and a 11-year-old girl and a 17-year-old girl. So, just watching kids grow up and so forth. I don't care if they're North Vietnamese kids or South or what have you. I have no desire to go bomb villages and kill women and children at all. I've been very careful not to do that, certainly. I'm very careful. I think most of the pilots in the squadron are very careful where they put their bombs so that they don't accidentally hit women and children, this sort of thing. How do you feel? I think Bill's right. I don't know of anyone that's just going to go over and drop a bomb in a village because that's not doing anything for the war effort. We want to get the targets of military importance.
Well, it was on the 13th of September, we were flying a bombing mission North Vietnam. We just discovered a bunch of missiles on transporters. Just finished dropping ordnance on them. We're looking for something to strafe and found a flank site. And we was getting started to make a pass. And I took a direct hit from either 37 or 57. Called I was hit, leaving the area. They didn't hear my radio transmission because number 4 man thought I was a missile. Called me out as a SAM. And then number 3 man said, no, that's 2, he's on fire. And I got about a minute and 10 or 20 seconds flying time out of the aircraft, got about 40 miles away from where I was hit. And I had a minor explosion, lost hydraulic pressure. The aircraft pitched down. And I ejected in an almost uncontrolled situation. About 525, 550 knots, 2 negative G's. That's when I hurt my ankle. Caught my foot. Ejection process getting out. Everything else was uneventful after the chute opened. Down, landed in the trees. Got the radio out, talked back to the flight. And they said the rescue aircraft was on the way. It took him about 45 or 50 minutes to get to me and about 5 or 6 minutes to pick me up.
Well, that's again, you know, you get up in the 90s and you got 10 to go and you say, well, I'm going home pretty soon, so I got to tell these guys something. So you go lay in bed at night and you think of things to tell them. And it runs, and wait a minute. I'm about to tell you guys something right now. This is my speech, and I don't need any help. Incidentally, I have a 3-hour speech prepared. Forget it. Something I'm damn proud to have, besides working with all you guys and with your names here. I don't really need this picture frame with the... with the name. I'm going to remember you guys. But I got to remember good.
This has been the story of fighter-bomber pilots at Korat Air Base, Thailand. For the flyer, living the hell over Hanoi, facing up to the odds, there is the simple yet poignant phrase, there ain't no way, there ain't no way, there ain't no way. But there comes the day for most, when the job is done.
I won't even say to the rest of the guys, no, there's no way, because there is a way. Major D is scheduling there, boy. There's a way. Oh, boy, there is a way. There is a way.
Very difficult to smile this morning. He's down there, huh?
And we'll sail the fields of the mission, and we'll drink to old Chief number 1. So come sit by my side at the briefing, and together we'll tickle the beat. Then we'll head for the Red River Valley, and